Hi everybody, and welcome to today's webinar, CCH OneClick, the advantages of digital data collection. My name's Dean Shepherd and I'm the product manager for our compliance suite, so that'll include tax, accounts and audit products. And I'm joined today by my colleague Natasha Kobrak, who is the product manager for anything to do with CCH OneClick and Portal. We are today without our usual organizer for these webinars, so we've had lots of fun setting this up at our end, and I believe we may have somehow hit our capacity for attendees. So if any of your colleagues have been unable to join, we are going to record this webinar and we'll distribute it to everybody who registered. So if you do have colleagues who are struggling to get in, then I've obviously done something wrong at this end, and we'll get them a copy. So let's get cracking. So the advantages of digital data collection. Now, I've been looking forward to this webinar for two reasons. Firstly, getting tax return information in from clients was a real struggle at times when I was in practice, and digital data collection tools that we've got are just another tool in your armory to help with that information requesting process. And secondly, I'm really looking forward to this because we're demonstrating this today in our development environment, which means that we're using the live source code that our developers are working on right now. This makes Natasha very nervous because it has a tendency to run a little slower, and if developers are working on something that we're trying to display on screen, then we might see a few funny things happening. But from my perspective, it means we get to show all the latest stuff, and when we log in, we might even get a few nice surprises. So what can you expect from today? Well, we're going to look at your sort of data collection processes. We're going to show you the data collection tools that we've been working on within CCH OneClick, and we're going to answer any questions that you may have along the way. So we'll save a bit of time at the end for questions, but if you do have any as we go through, then you should have a little question box to the right of your screen. And before I hand over to Natasha to start giving a live demonstration, we see this really as an addition to what you're doing right now in terms of requesting tax return information from your clients, not necessarily a complete replacement. So for those of you that perhaps need a little more time to implement OneClick in your practice, you may prefer to use the existing tools that we've got within Central, so the information request letter mail merge, or perhaps using messages in documents and Portal to send those out to your clients this year because of GDPR. And perhaps you can use these data collection tools as a chaser a few months down the line. Others of you that are a little quicker to implement, then maybe you'll just want to roll this out to your clients straight away, and maybe do the reverse. So if you have clients that don't engage with the digital data collection tools, then perhaps chase them up with the old information request letter that's still very valid in CCH Central. So at this point, I will hand over to Natasha, and she'll take us through what we've got in the software for you.
Thank you very much, Dean. Right, okay, so I'm going to move and start this journey in Central. And as Dean rightly pointed out, we want to show the very latest of features that our developers are working on at the moment. We recently had an online release which allowed the ability for you to be able to surface the data request area for clients within their OneClick Workspace. So if any of you have been looking at that already, you will see that online now. There's some more features that we're working on at the moment for our next online release, which is why we are using our development environment. So that is always fun and games in terms of what people happen to be working on right now. So what I'm going to do is I am going to start off by showing you how you will add the data data request feature to your client that you want to use it with. To do that, we're going to go into our clients area. We're going to open up the client that we're going to be using today, and that one is going to be Aretha Franklin. So I'm going to open her up right now. Okay, and within here you can see she's already been activated for OneClick, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in an extra feature for her, and that is the digital data request. Now, when I move the feature over, you're going to notice a pop-up message that comes up. And this pop-up message is a very, very important message for you to bear in mind when you're activating this for your clients. And what it's telling you is it's telling you that you should review any associated contacts that you have for that particular client that is activated for that client's OneClick Workspace. And the reason for that is that any associated contacts that are activated and have access to that client's OneClick Workspace will also have access to the data request tile. So this is really important because if they have access to it, they can see the information that's in there. So you really need to be very, very careful when you choose your clients to use this product with, that you're happy that any contacts that are activated to access their workspace are the contacts that are going to be able to access and view the information that's contained within it, and there are contacts that you have an agreement with your client to have access to those features and to be able to look at that data request. So please bear that in mind when you are doing this.
We've had a question come in, Natasha. Is there a way we can find out from our clients who might have activated associated contacts?
Sorry, from your client?
So so that point, can we use the Find Client tool or report to identify which clients might have activated associated contacts?
I believe you actually have to look within the individual client record in order to be able to see the associated contacts within it that are activated, yes. And you'll find that within the associated tab in the client's record, and you'll be able to see with a little logo which of their associated contacts within the client's record is activated to be able to access their workspace. Brilliant. Okay, thanks for that. So what I'm going to do now is I've added in the client's the data request feature into that client, okay, and I'm just going to hit OK now, okay. And it's probably worth mentioning at this point that this can also be done in bulk. So if you want to add any features to your clients, you can do that through the Find Client screen, where you can tick multiple clients and then go ahead and add a particular feature to all of them. So what I'm going to do at this point in time, now that I've added in data request as a feature for that client, is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to send an information request, okay, to a particular client. So if I go here and I tick Aretha Franklin, you will see up here is the data request button that I can go ahead and I can press in order to send that digital data request for that client. And again, you'll see another reminder here for you to make sure that you've reviewed your contacts for the particular client that you're using this for. Now, if I go ahead and press OK, what that will do is it'll allow me to pick which particular year that I want to do this for. And in this case, I'm going to choose 2019 and I'm going to press finish. Okay, so what that's going to do is that's going to send off the information request to my client. And it's probably also worth mentioning at this point that, again, you can also do this in bulk if you wanted to. So I could have chosen to select multiple clients in here and then gone ahead and sent the data request, and that would have gone and sent it to multiple clients too. Also worth mentioning as well at this point is that data request very much works with the information that your client has submitted to you for the previous tax year, and it uses those sources of income from the previous tax year as a basis or a template for the request it's going to make this year. So you have to use clients that already have a previous tax return in your personal tax system. So just bear that in mind when you are choosing the clients that you want to use this with. Okay, wonderful. So what I'm going to do at this point is I am going to go into my email account. This is a temporary email address that I use, so it's always interesting to see the random emails that you get in here. But I'm going to go ahead and check Aretha Franklin's inbox. And what you can see in here is a couple of notifications. One notification is just to tell Aretha Franklin that she's had this feature added in to her OneClick Workspace. But this feature, this email here, which is probably the most important one that we want to look at, is an email that is advising her of the existence of a digital data request that she needs to go ahead and action. This email is editable, as is most of the email templates that we have in OneClick. So you can go into CCH Central and you can edit this email template, and we always recommend that people do so. So Dean has gone ahead and he's edited this one. And in this, you can see that it has it notes to the clients that they have a link that they can log into in order to use the digital data request tool within the OneClick browser. And to do that, they can go ahead and click that link. But it does also advise of our mobile app that we have. And for a lot of people here, you know, we've presented the mobile app extensively, so a lot of people will be familiar with it. It is available for Android at the moment. It's not available yet for Apple devices. So we do recommend that people who use Apple probably use it in the browser to start off with. For some practices, may not want their clients to use the application, the mobile application at all. They might want their clients to simply use a browser. That being the case, within your email template, you can absolutely remove reference to the native mobile application. You can absolutely do that, and then they won't be aware, obviously, of that application existing, and they will be very much directed to use it within the browser. So you can choose that when you're editing your email template. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this link, and that's going to take me into my OneClick workspace for Aretha Franklin. Okay, and I am now going to log in. Okay, so I'm logging into my OneClick Workspace. Now I'm imagining that a lot of people are familiar already with the OneClick and the Workspace for the clients, but I'll just mention at this point, now that I've logged in, that you can see on the right-hand side there's a client area which shows clients who within the practice deals with their account, so they can see a name, they can see a role if you want to set a role there. They will also see any pictures or avatars that you happen to have added for that particular employee in Central. That will appear in there as well. So sometimes practices want to give that more personal touch. All of that will appear under the client area in here. And we also have our messages and documents area, which allows any documentation that's created in Central to be published up into the client's OneClick Workspace, and also a message exchange system that you can use with your clients. But I'm not going to be going into messages and documents in this particular session. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click into the digital data request area. Now, when we go into the digital data request area, what happens is that the system starts polling the HMRC for the digital tax account information. And it's probably worth mentioning that, you know, we all know that HMRC sometimes take a little bit of time in order to release that information, which is why we have our system polling HMRC on a daily basis for clients to make sure that as soon as that information has come in, you will be able to see it in there. So it obviously brings it in firsthand. Okay. So where I am now is I am inside my client's digital data request area. And what you can see in here is a list of sources of income. And as I mentioned previously, these sources of income are based on the client's previous tax year. So all the sources of income they entered the previous tax year has been pushed out to them for them to be able to review it for this particular year. And obviously, if they need to add anything else, they can do that too. Okay, so let's have a look at what we have in here. First things first, I have got a marriage allowance section. Now, my marriage allowance section currently appears to be grayed out. It shows all of the information that the system has for the previous tax year in here. If your client happens to have had a bit of a change of circumstances, they can go ahead and they can tick they have in terms of their circumstances being changed. And what will happen is that the system will activate all of these fields and they can go ahead and edit them. In this case, I'm just going to press They haven't. Keep things simple. And I'm going to press save. Okay, so the next one I have on here is employment income, and I'm going to open up employment income now. So under employment income, you can see here there's a status of incomplete, and what that means is that your client hasn't yet entered information. You can see the previous year's amount. Okay, so that's 32,000. So it just gives them a bit of a reference in terms of the actual type of figures that you're looking for. You can also see here a PAYE reference that it's pushing over as well. But what I'm going to do in under employment is let's pretend that this client doesn't actually have that information to hand. Maybe their advisor happens to look after their payroll. So what they're going to do is they're going to send them a message under the message area. And they're going to say, do you have my P60? Okay, and I'm going to press send. Okay, wonderful. So now I've done this, it's a note to my advisor to say, you know, please could you enter this information for me? You have my P60, and obviously the advisor can see that and can action that. Okay, so that was employment income, and you can see here the latest message that has been exchanged in this area. Okay, so the next one that we've got here in the system is UK interest, and you've got a Barclays account in here. Now, for the previous year's amount is 186. Maybe for this particular year, we can add £190. And what we'll do in this particular area as well is this is a jointly owned source of income. So I'm going to tick this here, and I'm going to add that I have a share of 50% in this particular source. So you can see here that the jointly owned area has been ticked, and I've entered that value there. And I'm going to press save. So again, that indicates to the advisor that a portion of this income is to be used. So if I look here under UK interest HSBC, I'll just add a value, normal value into that one there, and I'll press save. Okay. And let's look at this particular one here, foreign dividend income. Okay, so previous year's amount was 312, and I'm going to add, let's say 315. But probably what is most interesting about this particular area is that you can see the currency here is in euros, okay, because this is a French source of incomes, Francotel shares. So where this has come from is it's actually pulled up the currency from personal tax. You could modify it if you wanted to, your client could modify it, but otherwise it is a euros value, and that retains that within the digital data request area within OneClick as well. Okay, and I'm going to press save. Let's go to child benefit now. I'll maybe add the same value as the previous year. You can see the number of children is here is 2. That hasn't changed. If it's seized, you could enter the date that it has been seized as well. So you can see that each source of income is very much, the values that you have in there are very much bespoke to the type of the source of income that you happen to be dealing with. We've got lots of investment income in here. Maybe I'll just add one value in here just to add a bit more information, but otherwise let's go to a particularly interesting one here, which is the income from UK property. So I'm going to open into here, and that is because a lot of feedback that we got when we were building this product is, you know, the intricacies of reporting back your property values. And so we have spent a lot of time adding a lot of fields into this area to make sure that we capture all of the different bits of income and expenses that can happen when you happen to be dealing with property. So I'm going to enter rental income now. Maybe we'll say that they made 14,000 that year. Okay, let's add a little bit of council tax in there. Let's add a bit of repairs and maintenance. Okay, let's add some insurance as well for the year. So I'm just adding a few extra values, and you can see here that it does a bit of a calculation. You've got your income from your property there. You've also got your expenses from your property down there. Gives you a little bit of an idea of the net income. If it happened to be jointly owned, you could add that as well. So it really does break down those values into a lot more detail. Okay, and I'm going to save that now. Great. So now that I've done all of these things, you can see here the status is changing. The client has completed some, he's left a few others incomplete. This bit he didn't have the information for, maybe has left a few other areas incomplete that he wasn't sure of. But what if there happen to be any other sources of income for that particular year that hasn't actually been mentioned in this list? So what your client can do at this point is they can press add additional info. Okay, and I'm going to add this information into here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to enter, let's say maybe our client has sold some shares. So I'm going to add some shares into here, and I'm going to say sold my, I don't know, M&S shares for £800 or something like that, and I'm going to press save. And what happens is that gets added to the list as well of information that the advisor has to take into account when preparing that client's tax return. So you can see that that's in there now. Okay, so now that that's been done, the client feels that they have done all that they could do on their digital data request, and they're ready now for the advisor to kind of pick up the remaining pieces. So what the client is going to do is they're going to press the Mark All as Complete button. Now, by doing this, they are indicating to their advisor that they have reached the point where they need their advisor to review it and to be able to maybe enter any missing values in there. Okay, so I'm doing that now. And what that will do is it'll be notifying the advisor that this is now ready for the advisor to review. Great. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to leave this client's data request area, and I'm now going to dive in to our advisors area. So to do this, I am now in the advisors OneClick Workspace, and you can see in here a big, large amount of tiles, lots of different tiles in there. So a lot of you will be familiar already with the OneClick Workspace, so I won't be going into a lot of detail in this particular area. Save to maybe mention the fact that now that your client has gone ahead and has entered all of their values, you do get a notification in there to say that Aretha Franklin has marked all her sections as complete. And if you were to click into here, it would take you right into that client's area. You can even see here one that we practiced earlier as well. So all those notifications are coming into activity feed to keep that information live and current for any advisors that happen to be on the OneClick a fair bit. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the digital data review area, which is the advisor side of that data request exchange. So if I go into here and I click into my client Aretha Franklin, what I'm going to see here is my client's record for data collection. You can see a UTR and her NI number, and you can see here all the sources of income that she entered information on. The ones that she completed are the ones with a tick against them. So 1 tick means that your client has entered information into there. 2 ticks means that the advisor has completed it. And you can also see a little orange bullseye which tells you if there's any information that has maybe been updated. So for example, employment income, there was a comment in there from your client, so it tells you that there's something new there that needs your attention. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, let's maybe have a little bit of an easier way to look at all of these sources of income. What I'm going to do is I'm going to expand all of the rows in here, and what that has done is it's opened it all up so I can see all of my information at a glance. I might keep things easy actually. I can see there are no changes under allowances. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to mark this one as approved because I'm happy with this information that has been given to me. I'm happy with child benefits. I'm going to mark that one as approved as well. I'm looking at employment income. I can see there's no information under there, and I can also see there's a comment. Now, if I open this up, you'll see that comment that I entered earlier, which is, do you have my P60? At this point, obviously, the advisor realizes that they're the ones who manages that client's payroll. So what they're going to do is they are going to attach, okay, a P60. Here we go. And that has attached the P60 into here. And that means that your client can actually see that attachment on their side as well. And I'm going to just write here, I have attached your P60, and maybe they can enter the values themselves as well, and entered your values, so no further information is needed on this. Great. So what I've done is I've added that in there, and what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll enter that information myself as the advisor into there. And I'm happy with that because I know that the information is 33,000 for this particular year from their P60, so I can go ahead and I can approve that. Okay, so if I go into the next one, maybe let's just approve a few more into here. Income from UK property was obviously that very special one I showed earlier. There are so many fields that are relevant for this particular source of income. What we've done in here is we've actually got a little view breakdown area. So if I click into this, you'll be able to see a breakdown of all those values that your clients have entered. Obviously, I only entered a few, but your clients might have a lot of values in here that they need to enter, which is why we need to have that deeper dive into here. But in this particular case, my advisor wants a bit more information about the UK property. So what they're going to do is they're going to actually ask for their clients to give them a bit of a breakdown, or maybe a spreadsheet. Oh, if I could spell. Okay. So what that does is it just tells them, look, I want to just cross-check some of these values with you. And if they do use spreadsheets, which I know so many clients do, they can attach that into there. And again, that creates a little permanent record in there of any additional documentation that is needed. So because they've asked for a spreadsheet and they want to confer those values against that spreadsheet, they are going to mark this one as incomplete. Okay, so let's add a few more things to approve in here. Okay, this one is approved as well. Okay, all of that stuff in here, lots of things approved. And what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to show one of the big things that we've done. Why does this keep appearing? Let's close that. One of the big things that we've been working on recently, now a lot of people who've been using our digital tax account information that we hold in OneClick will be familiar with the concept of being able to push that DTA information down into a client's tax return. And what we've done in data collection, our data collection processes, is something very, very similar. Dean just reminded me that I had to save all of this. I get suddenly wrapped up with talking, so I've just pressed save on that. But what we've done is something very, very similar for data collection as well, which is just allowing that extra bit of efficiency when you are dealing with all these numbers that are coming in. And instead of making an advisor go ahead and retype and rekey all that information into your client's personal tax return, which obviously is time consuming, and it's also you have that extra liability and risk that you might end up keying into incorrect figures. What we've done is we've also built in the ability for you to be sending this information down into your client's tax return. So what I'm going to do, I'll just tick a couple of areas into here, and I'm going to press send to tax return. And it was very, very important to note at this particular time that when you send this information down, it overwrites the values that are in personal tax. So it's really important when you do this that you're comfortable with doing that, and that those values will be overwritten. So I'm just pushing that down into personal tax. And it's probably worth mentioning at this point that we have a large amount of source of income already that we've built disability for. I think we have a couple more that are going to be coming out over the next few months, but the most common ones have already been catered for, and you'll be seeing this in the 2019.1 release, because obviously it has a dependency with CCH Central, so you will need an upgrade to CCH Central in order to be able to use this. But either way, it has been pushed down into your client's tax return. So what I'll do now, maybe I'll just pop back into my client's OneClick Workspace. If I go into data collection, I can just refresh that. I'll just show you briefly. I was about to show you something actually. I think Dean wants to pop in with something.
Yeah, we just had a question. These were all based on last year's tax return categories. Was there an option to add new sources or add additional info that didn't necessarily appear on last year's tax return?
Oh, I think yes, I think I may have covered that. So I added in to this particular area a new source of income already. It's sitting here under any other information. So if I just go back into here, I can actually show you. I'm going into my client's workspace, and for anyone who didn't actually see me doing that, I'm more than happy to show this again. So I'm back in my client's OneClick Workspace, and what I wanted to show in here was just, you know, the comments that have come in, the fact that the status here is now complete because my advisor has now, you know, said approved in all those different areas. So as far as I'm concerned as a client, this is now complete in these areas. You can see here the comment from your advisor to say they've attached the P60. You can see the question about having a spreadsheet to accompany this, and you know, just as a recap, any additional information that needs to be added for this particular year, you can do that under the add additional info button. So just by pressing it into here, you can go ahead and add anything in here, and that will appear under the advisors on the advisor side as well. Okay, great. So I've just shown you what it looks like now on the client side. What I thought I'd do as well is I'll pop back into CCH Central, and maybe I'll jump into that client, Aretha Franklin, jump into their tax returns. Which one did I use, Dean? Did I use 2019? Yes. Okay. And you can see in here already, you can see in here already under employment, you've got 33,000, which is what I entered and what I've pushed down into the system from the digital data review. That's come down into personal tax. So if you think about all the different sources of income, your client might have 8, 9, 10 sources of income, to be able to just go ahead and tick all of those values and push them down, knowing that that actual number will come in and there's no risk of you going ahead and entering the wrong value. That's a big time saver and a big efficiency improvement in there. So that is our demo of digital data collection. As I mentioned, we do have a mobile application as well. I'm not showing it in this particular session as we have done previous sessions which cover this particular application. It is available for Androids. If you do want to try it out with your customers, you can always add in the email template that if they have an Android phone, they can choose to use that app. Dean, do you have anything you'd like to add at this point? Probably open up maybe to questions.
Yeah, we've had lots of questions flying in that I've been trying to answer as we go along in the question box area. I think a lot of them actually are very good suggestions for the kind of next iteration of the product, additional functionality that would be super useful. So I think if people have lots of ideas like that, getting them into user voice would be great, because then we can see everyone's suggestions for things that would also be useful. So some of the things we've had come in is about adding new sources before it goes out to the client. That's one that's definitely on our mind, and being able to handle new clients without previous tax return in the system. So you could do that at the moment. If, for example, you're taking on a new client, you could do that by creating a previous year's tax return. So if you've been given a copy of the tax return from the previous advisor, then you could populate those entries, get it into your system, and use that with new clients. But we'd certainly look to have an option to send something out where there isn't any history. And other things that just a bit more functionality around some of the things like joint income. So if I've got a joint source, could that be sent into a spouse's tax return, for example? Things like that. So there's lots of good suggestions coming through, and they're coming through so thick and fast. I don't think we're going to be able to cover them all off in one go. What I will do is distribute a question and answer sheet after the webinar, so any questions that people have asked, we'll create a document so that everybody can see all those questions that have come in now, responses to them, and yeah, that will give you a bit more information about the existing functionality and stuff that we'd like to produce in the next iteration. We've had a question about whether this is live at the moment, and if not, when will this be live?
So, yes, a large portion of this functionality is live at the moment. We had an online deployment a couple of weeks ago, which pushed out the ability for the client to see the data request information in the OneClick browser, because prior to that, it was within the Android application. Now people can go ahead and can look at that. We have new functionality coming in, which will be coming in for the next online release, which is end of March, but also for 19.1. So anything that has a dependency on the on-premise CCH Central system will come in when you next upgrade to 19.1, and obviously that's enabled just in time for you to be able to send out your data requests. I mean, it's probably worth mentioning at this point as well a few points for you to remember off the back of this demo. One of them, which is probably one that we think is really, really important, is to make sure that when you are sending out data requests and when you are choosing those clients to send it to, that you've reviewed all of your clients' associated contacts to make sure that you're happy that those contacts who are activated for OneClick Workspace. So if they have associated contacts who don't have access to OneClick, that's absolutely fine. But if you do have any contacts for that client who are activated to see their OneClick Workspace, just make sure that you are comfortable that they will be able to, that they can see the data request tile as well and the information contained within it. That's the number one point that we mention. The second point as well is, if you are going to trial this out, which we obviously hope that everyone is, why don't you have a look at your email templates in advance? We've put some standard wording in there, but you might want to personalize this a little bit more. You might want to edit it and maybe remove reference to the mobile application if you want to push them through the browser, or you might want to add a few other notes for your clients to remember. You'll definitely want to have a look at the email templates before you start shipping this out to your clients. The next thing to remember as well is any clients that you use have to have a previous year's tax return in the system, or the system at least needs to see them having had a previous year's tax return, because they will use a source of income from the previous year in order to push out that list of information that they need to their your clients. And probably what's very important, I'm not sure we've mentioned this one yet, but this one is very, very important. So our aim when we released when we did an online release a few weeks ago in order to push this information out, was because we really want people to be able to review this product and test it out and be comfortable with it internally before you start using it in April, to make sure that you feel it fits in with your current work processes. Now, to test it out, you do, however, need to have a client that has a valid UTR and NI number. And the reason for this is because we do obviously pull any information from the HMRC that sits within that client's digital tax account into the data request. So your client can review this information, and if they are happy with the information, they can just confirm that that is correct instead of having to type in values. So you do need to bear this in mind. If you want to test this out before April, you do need to make sure that you have a client that you can test it out with a valid UTR and NI number. Okay, and probably one of the most interesting pieces as well. Do you want to talk about this piece, Dean, or shall I cover it? No, yep, he's pointing to me. That's absolutely fine. I'm happy to mention this particular part. We've actually decided internally that we would like digital data collection to be free until April 2020. So there is a pricing attached to digital data collection going forward from April 2020. You might want to speak to your account manager if you'd like to discuss that further. However, for this particular year and leading up to the April 2020 tax collection, data collection period, we will be letting you use a digital data collection for free. And there is very, very selfish reasons for that. And that is because we want people to use it and to feedback on it. So, we would like you to go ahead and be comfortable in using this with all of your clients. You can choose maybe a subset of your clients in order to trial this out on, and you can send it out to them. If you do have any feedback at all, please post us feedback back on User Voice. Like I said, the fact that it is free is very much a selfish reason for us. We want you to give us feedback and for you to use it, and let us know how we can improve on it even more. However, we have been working on this product for over a year now. It has been live since last April, but we do really, really want people to feel comfortable in using it, and maybe replacing some of your internal data collection processes with it.
We've had a few more questions come in, Natasha. There's a few questions about the associated contacts point and who that would affect. So, for example, if you've got a director who has the company as an associated contact, does that mean that the company would automatically be able to see the data request for the director or not, or partners of a partnership?
So I wonder if the company is an associated contact to the director, or if the director happens to work with a particular company. So you may have there may be a limited company where you have a few directors that work on that particular limited company. If that's the case, you may have the company being a client in its own right, and the director is an associated contact for that particular company. This being the case, if your advisor, if the accountant happens to do the tax returns for one director, okay, then he is working off that director being a client rather than the company, the limited company, being a client. And that means that if the director happens to be an associated contact for a company, but the advisor is working on the director's tax returns, then it's unlikely that the company will be an associated contact for that director. It's more vice versa. So in that situation, you wouldn't have to worry about the company being able to view the director's tax return, because the director is a client in his own right. I think it's more common, the situation, if you have maybe a person who has a director, or a man or a woman who has a particular tax return, who is a client for a particular accountant, and the accountant is doing that tax return, and maybe his spouse happens to be an associated contact because their spouse helps with their affairs. So that is probably a more common situation than a company being an associated contact for a director as a client, if that makes sense.
Thanks, Natasha. So it's just the case where one contact has been activated for that other client's workspace. Great.
Yes.
We've had a few other questions come in. Does this system also work for requesting information for accounts or for companies or partnerships? Currently it doesn't. So we've built this. Initially, this was built purely as a digital replacement for the tax return information request letter, and we used some of the business logic and functionality that sits behind that to create this digital version of the information request letter. I think it'd be really useful to know how you might like to see this evolve to support getting information in for partnerships, companies on the account side, and what kind of information you'd like to use this to be requesting. So that would be a good one to get some feedback on. We had a few, I suppose, more general one-click related questions. So is there a way to send out the old information request letters securely using one-click rather than printing them out and posting or emailing them?
So you can use obviously messages and documents as well if you want to exchange any information as well. That's also another option for pushing information back and forth. Not sure if that answers the question at all, Dean.
Yeah, I guess so. So you can use the old or the existing information request functionality in Central, and rather than email those out to clients, now we're post GDPR, you can use the secure message exchange functionality that we've got in OneClick Messages and Documents to send those through. We've had a couple of questions about can OneClick handle MTD for VAT? Can we file clients' VAT returns through OneClick? Slightly off topic, but yes, we have MTD for VAT functionality in OneClick, and that is bridging software functionality. So if you've got clients that are using spreadsheets rather than a separate package that you might otherwise be using to file VAT returns, then they can file those spreadsheet-based VAT returns using OneClick, and we do have separate webinars on MTD for VAT, so I'll distribute links for those so you can find out a bit more about that. We've had a question about bulk activation. So we just did it for one client. Is it possible to bulk activate clients for data request?
Yep, so if you go into your Find Client screen in Central, you can go ahead and choose all of the clients that you want, and you can add multiple features in one go to that list of clients that you've ticked. You can also go ahead and send the digital data request to multiple clients as well using the same methods. So under the Find Client screen, you just tick all the checkboxes for the clients that you happen to be dealing with, and you can send an information through there.
Okay, the last couple of questions that have come in. Is there a way to save a draft digital data request for review before it gets sent out? And is there a way to pre-populate some of the items in that data request, for example, where we would do the payroll, so we'd have that information and not want to ask the advisor for it. In the current version of the data request, we don't have those options, but they're very much in mind to include in a future release. In terms of if there's information you've got that you would want to pre-populate, so that you would want to fill out on the client's behalf because you already have that information, you can't currently do that before sending the request out, but you could be, if you've got a list of clients that you have that information for, so you could pull out a list of clients within Central for whom you do the payroll, then you could identify those, send out the request having the payroll information at the ready, and once that request has gone out, you can log in on the advisor side for each of those clients and populate that information. So at the moment we don't have a bulk way, and we don't have a way of doing it in advance, but both of those are very good suggestions that we can look to include in the next iteration.
So I'm just going to mention, because obviously we do see a lot of messages coming up, but I think someone asked about if they could have a recording as well. You know, apologies that I think there was for some reason there was a limit as to how many people could attend this particular webinar. We will be sending out recording of all of this, so you can obviously, anyone who's registered for this webinar will receive it. We've had a few questions obviously around the associated contacts piece. This piece, who's an associated contact of whom, is always a question that we get asked a lot about a lot of our products, so messages and documents, data requests, and how that whole association piece works. I'm happy to show something now about this, but I don't think my particular setup will show anything in a lot of detail. If you want to know which contacts are associated for your particular client, what you should do is you should go into your client record up here. Okay, you go into the associated tab under there. You can see all of the associated contacts for that client in here, and you will see if they are activated for this particular client's workspace, if they have a logo in here. Okay, and if you wanted to activate them at all, you could go ahead and you could press activated under here. So just bear that in mind, that is how you would see. And if you want, as part, I think afterwards also we'll have a look at any questions that we may not have covered, and we're happy to send out some answers and maybe a few screenshots as to where you would see that information as well.
If you are interested in seeing, I wouldn't say seeing this presentation again, but having another look at data collection, and having seen this, you've got some more questions that you would like answered, then we do have roadshows going on next week that cover MTD and other functionality that we've got within CCH OneClick. So the couple of people asked about MTD for that. That will certainly be covered in those roadshows. So they're taking place next week. There's still time to register for those. You should all have received emails about them. So next week, I believe it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. The first one's in Bristol. Then we go to Exeter, and then the final one takes place in London. So you've still got time to register and attend those, where you'll get to see data collection again, along with everything else that OneClick does, an opportunity to ask some more questions. Final question that's come in is on the cost. So it's free at the moment, and how much will this cost from April 2020? I guess that'll be a decision taken nearer the time, and depending how well this initial launch goes. I think, like most of the chargeable elements within OneClick, it will be charged on a per client basis at a maximum of £1 per client per month, and then depending how much or how many clients you have using the particular options, then that £1 drops. So the more clients that use functionality and you actually find it valuable for, then the £1 per client per month will drop. But I'm sure we shall distribute more details about that the further we get to, or the closer we get to 2020.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. We hope you've all found this useful. Like I said, we will be circulating this recording. We'll be going over any questions or looking through the list of questions, seeing if there's anything we didn't respond to, and issuing this out. We also have a lot of information in our on the support site as well under OneClick around how to use our data collection tools. So feel free to have a look at that as well. And again, please use this product, give us feedback, post it on User Voice. For us, it's always a big benefit to know what direction we should be moving our products towards. So I believe that's all from us, and thank you very much.